Captain Lyra Valen stood at the wide observation window of the Dominion cruiser Aethra's Spear, her silver eyes fixed on the endless field of stars ahead. Space was never truly silent, yet from this distance it looked calm, almost peaceful. She preferred it that way. Order. Distance, control, those were the values she had built her life upon. Behind her, the bridge crew moved with discipline. Every motion was precise, every voice steady. They were Archiles, warriors shaped by centuries of conquest and survival. Strength was their foundation. Power was their language, and now somewhere on this ship there was a human. Lyra still disliked the word. The Dominion Council had insisted on this partnership, a cultural exchange they had called it, strategic cooperation. A gesture of goodwill toward the rising species from Earth. Lyra had argued against it. Humans were young in the galactic arena, emotion-driven, physically unimpressive compared to many advanced species. Their bones were fragile, their skin soft, their lifespans short, weak. That was the word she did not say aloud. A soft tone sounded from the command console. "Captain," her tactical officer said, "the human requests permission to enter the bridge." Lyra exhaled slowly. "Granted." The bridge doors parted with a quiet hum. Elias Kane stepped inside. He wore a simple dark uniform issued by the Dominion, though it had been slightly adjusted to fit his human frame. He was tall by human standards, but average compared to Archiles' warriors. His movements were calm, controlled, almost careful. He did not walk like a soldier trying to impress others. He walked like a man observing everything. At his side hung a sheathed blade. It was not large, not glowing, not enhanced with visible energy cells. Just a weapon of polished metal with faint patterns etched along its surface. Lyra's gaze lingered on it. "You requested bridge access," she said without turning fully toward him. "Yes, Captain," Elias replied. His voice was steady, respectful, not fearful. "I wanted to observe the approach to the Orion Fringe." Lyra studied him. "Observation will not increase your combat efficiency." "Maybe not," he said calmly, "but it might increase my understanding." Some of the crew exchanged quiet glances. Archiles' warriors valued action, not observation. Planning, yes, but from those who had proven themselves. Elias had not yet proven anything. "We are escorting relic transports," Lyra said, "not conducting a sightseeing tour." "I understand," he answered. "But contested territory requires awareness. I prefer to know what I'm stepping into." Lyra stepped closer to him. She towered slightly over the human, her presence naturally imposing. "You will follow my command structure. You will not act independently." Elias met her gaze without challenge. "Of course." There was something in his eyes that unsettled her, not arrogance, not defiance, confidence. It irritated her. "Very well," she said. "Stand behind the tactical ring, do not interfere." He nodded once and moved to the designated area. The Orion Fringe came into view on the main display, a cluster of unstable star systems, gravitational distortions, and drifting asteroid fields. Trade routes passed through it because it shortened travel time, but pirates and rogue factions also used it as cover. The relic convoy traveled at the center of their formation, ancient structures recovered from a forgotten civilization. No one fully understood their purpose. But every major power wanted them. Lyra had no intention of losing them. "Long-range sensors picking up fluctuations," the navigator reported. "Natural?" Lyra asked. "Uncertain." Elias leaned slightly forward, studying the data scrolling across the holographic display. He said nothing, but his eyes moved quickly, analyzing patterns. Lyra noticed. Minutes passed. The ship entered a denser region of drifting debris. Visibility decreased. Sensor interference increased. Then the alarm sounded. "Multiple vessels emerging from shadow fields," the tactical officer shouted. Red lights flashed across the bridge. Lyra's voice cut through the tension. "Battle formation Delta, shield arcs forward, protect the convoy." Outside, sleek pirate ships burst from behind asteroid clusters, weapons already charging. Energy beams streaked through space, striking the outer shield of the Dominion cruiser. The ship trembled but held firm. "Return fire," Lyra commanded. Dominion cannons responded with precision. 2 pirate vessels were struck immediately, their hulls cracking under concentrated blasts. Elias remained behind the tactical ring, watching. Another explosion rocked the cruiser. "Flanking ships approaching from port side," someone shouted. Lyra moved quickly, issuing orders with sharp clarity. She directed smaller escort ships to intercept the attackers. Her strategy was efficient: block, isolate, eliminate. But the pirates adapted quickly. "They're using debris as cover," Elias said suddenly. Lyra shot him a glance. "That is obvious." "Yes," he said calmly, "but they're hurting us." She looked back at the display. The pirate ships were not attacking randomly. They were firing in patterns, pushing Dominion escorts into tighter formations near unstable asteroid clusters. Lyra narrowed her eyes. "They want us compressed," Elias continued. "If they trigger those unstable rocks, we'll have limited maneuver space." Silence fell briefly on the bridge. Lyra studied the data again. He was correct. She disliked that he was correct. "Tactical," she ordered, "break formation. Expand lateral distance by 20%. Draw them away from the debris field." Her officers obeyed instantly. The pirate formation faltered. Within minutes, Dominion forces regained control. Precise counterstrikes disabled the remaining enemy ships. The survivors retreated into the shadows. Silence returned. Damage reports flowed in. Minimal losses. Lyra turned slowly toward Elias. "You noticed their pattern quickly," she said. He shrugged slightly. "Humans learned early that brute strength doesn't always win. Sometimes you survive by noticing small things." She considered that. "You spoke out of turn." "Yes, Captain. And yet your observation was useful." He inclined his head. "I served the mission." Lyra turned away, hiding her reluctant acknowledgement. As the crew resumed their duties, she allowed herself a brief thought. Perhaps the human was not entirely useless. Hours later, the convoy reached a temporary safe zone between unstable systems. The stars here flickered strangely, distorted by gravitational waves from a nearby dying sun. Lyra left the bridge to inspect the relic transport personally. The relic chamber was vast and dimly lit. Floating platforms held crystalline structures, metallic rings, and fragments of unknown technology. Each piece hummed softly with dormant energy. Elias stood near one of the relics, studying it. "You were not assigned to this section," Lyra said. "I know," he replied, not startled. "I requested permission from logistics. They approved." She approached him carefully. "You understand nothing about these artifacts." "True," he said, "but I can feel something." Lyra frowned. "Feel." He gestured toward a large circular relic with faint etchings. "It's not aggressive energy, it's balanced, like it was built to stabilize something." Lyra folded her arms. "Speculation." "Maybe," he said. "But humans have a long history of building tools to fix problems we created." She gave him a sharp look. "You assume this civilization was repairing damage. I assume advanced species eventually learn that destruction has limits." His words lingered in the air. Suddenly, the chamber lights flickered. A deep vibration passed through the hull of the ship. Lyra tapped her wrist console. "Report!" The bridge responded quickly. "Captain, we are detecting a large fleet emerging near the dying star. Signatures match the Carthun ascendancy." Lyra's expression hardened. The Carthun were not pirates, they were conquerors. Their doctrine centered on overwhelming force. They valued domination above diplomacy. "How many vessels?" she asked. "More than 20 capital ships, numerous support craft." Lyra felt a rare flicker of concern. They were outnumbered. She turned toward Elias. "Return to your assigned station." He nodded, but his hand rested briefly on the hilt of his blade. The ship accelerated toward battle positions. Through the observation windows, the Carthun fleet appeared, massive black warships shaped like jagged spears. Their hulls absorbed light. Their engines glowed with violent energy. A transmission opened. The Carthun commander appeared on the screen, towering and armored. "Surrender the relics," he demanded. "Your resistance will be brief." Lyra stepped forward. "The relics are under Dominion protection. Withdraw." The commander's eyes narrowed. "Then you will fall with them." The transmission ended. Moments later, the first barrage struck. The cruiser shook violently as concentrated energy beams pounded against its shields. Escort ships exploded in flashes of light. Lyra moved with controlled intensity. "All ships, focus fire on lead assault vessel. Disrupt their coordination." Dominion cannons fired in unison, scoring hits along the enemy flagship's hull. But the Carthun did not retreat. They advanced relentlessly. On a lower deck, Elias stood near an emergency viewport, watching the battle unfold. His face was calm, but his jaw was set with quiet determination. A young Archiles officer approached him. "Human, you should remain in protected quarters." Elias shook his head slightly. "Where is Captain Valan's secondary strike team stationed?" "Deck 14. "Thank you." He moved quickly but without panic. On Deck 14, chaos reigned. The Carthun had launched boarding pods. Explosions echoed through the corridors. Lyra fought at the center of her warriors, her energy spear cutting through armored attackers with disciplined precision. Then she saw him. Elias stepped into the corridor. He drew his blade. For a moment, Lyra expected the weapon to shatter under the weight of Carthun armor. Instead, the blade hummed softly, not loudly, not dramatically, but with resonance. A Carthun warrior charged toward him. Elias did not rush. He stepped aside at the last second, redirecting the attacker's momentum. His blade moved in a clean arc, striking at a joint in the armor. The armor split. The enemy fell. Lyra paused briefly in surprise. Another attacker lunged at Elias from behind. Without turning fully, Elias shifted his stance, blade reversing direction smoothly. He did not overpower the enemy. He guided the strike, using the narrow corridor walls to limit the opponent's movement. Precision, efficiency, no wasted motion. Lyra felt something unfamiliar. Respect, the corridor battle intensified. More enemies poured in. Dominion warriors struggled to hold the line. Then the ship trembled violently. "Captain," a voice shouted over comms. "The Carthun are activating a gravitational destabilizer near the dying star." Lyra's heart tightened. If the star collapsed prematurely, the shockwave would destroy everything in the system, including the convoy. She looked at Elias. He looked back at her. For the first time, she did not see weakness. She saw focus. "We need to reach the anomaly core," he said. "That is suicide," she replied. "Not if we understand what they're trying to break." She hesitated only a second. "Strike team," she commanded. "Prepare for immediate deployment toward the destabilizer coordinates." Elias stood beside her. As they moved through the damaged corridors toward the hangar bay, Lyra felt the ship shudder under continuous assault. Outside, the dying star pulsed erratically, its surface rippling like disturbed water. The Carthun fleet positioned massive devices around it, beams connecting to the star's core. Elias tightened his grip on his blade. Lyra glanced at him once more. She had once believed him fragile. Now, as the fate of entire fleets trembled in the balance, she began to understand something she had never considered before. Perhaps strength was not always loud. Perhaps it did not always shine with overwhelming force. Sometimes it moved quietly. And sometimes, when drawn at the right moment, it could shake the stars. The hangar bay roared with activity as engineers rushed between ships, securing equipment and preparing fighters for immediate launch. Warning lights flashed across the metallic walls, casting long red shadows that moved like restless waves. Outside the massive viewing shield, the dying star pulsed with unstable energy, each flare brighter and more violent than the last. The Carthun fleet surrounded it like predators circling wounded prey. Captain Lyra Valen walked quickly toward the strike vessel assigned for their mission. Her armor reflected the flashing lights, her posture calm but focused. Behind her, a small team of Dominion warriors followed, checking weapons and scanning tactical data. Elias walked beside her, silent but alert. The blade at his side seemed almost alive now, its faint vibration barely noticeable unless someone stood close. Lyra had begun to notice that subtle hum more clearly. It was not loud, not dramatic, but steady like a heartbeat. "You understand the risk," she said without looking at him. "Yes," he replied simply. "We may not return. That has been true since the first shot was fired." Lyra almost smiled at the answer, but quickly hid it. They reached the strike vessel. The pilot saluted as they boarded. Within moments, the small craft detached from the cruiser and launched into open space, engines flaring bright blue against the darkness. The battlefield stretched before them like a storm frozen in time. Explosions lit the void. Energy beams crossed paths in violent lines of light. Dominion ships fought with disciplined formations, while Carthun vessels advanced relentlessly, uncaring about losses. The dying star pulsed again, sending waves of distorted gravity outward. The strike vessel shook as it passed through unstable currents. "Adjusting trajectory," the pilot said, struggling against the force pulling them sideways. Lyra studied the tactical display. The Carthun destabilizer devices floated in a ring around the star, massive machines connected by energy beams. If they completed their activation, the star would collapse faster than predicted, releasing a shockwave capable of destroying fleets. "We target the central node," Lyra said. "Destroying it should disrupt their network." Elias shook his head gently. Destroying it might accelerate the collapse. We need to interrupt the energy flow, not break the structure entirely. Lyra frowned. You speak as though you know their technology. I don't, he admitted, but I understand systems under pressure. If something is forcing the star into instability, we need balance, not destruction. Her instincts told her to rely on overwhelming force. But something about his calm reasoning felt right. She turned to the pilot. Approach the central node carefully, prepare for boarding. The strike vessel dodged incoming fire as they moved closer. A Carthun fighter intercepted them, weapons blazing. Dominion escort ships quickly engaged it, clearing a path. Moments later, the strike vessel attached to the surface of the destabilizer. Boarding complete, the pilot announced. Lyra led the team through the airlock. The interior of the Carthun device was vast and dim, filled with humming machinery and glowing conduits that pulsed with energy from the star. Almost immediately, Carthun soldiers appeared. The battle began again. Lyra moved like a storm, her energy spear flashing with controlled power. Her strikes were precise, efficient. Dominion warriors fought beside her with practiced unity. Elias entered the fight more quietly. He did not rush forward or swing wildly. Instead, he watched for openings, moving when necessary. His blade cut through energy barriers at strange angles, almost as if it followed invisible lines in space. One Carthun soldier charged him with brute force. Elias stepped aside at the last moment, guiding the enemy's momentum into a wall. The blade struck once, precise and clean. Lyra noticed again how he conserved energy. No wasted motion, no unnecessary aggression. They pushed deeper into the device. The air vibrated with increasing intensity. Energy flowed toward a central chamber where a massive core spun slowly, connected to the star by a beam of unstable light. Lyra stopped at the entrance. That must be the control center, she said. Elias nodded, studying the energy patterns. Yes, but look at the flow. It's not just pulling energy from the star, it's amplifying fluctuations. Meaning, they're making the instability worse on purpose. Lyra's eyes narrowed. Why destroy a star instead of capturing the relics directly? Fear, Elias said quietly. If they cannot control something, they might prefer to erase it. The idea felt disturbingly logical. A heavy door opened ahead, revealing the Carthun commander waiting with elite guards. His armor shimmered with dark energy, and his presence filled the chamber with threat. You persist, he said. Impressive, but irrelevant. Lyra stepped forward. Deactivate the destabilizer. The commander laughed softly. Strength belongs to those willing to reshape reality itself. Your hesitation is weakness. Before she could reply, he attacked. The clash shook the chamber. Energy weapons collided with raw force. Dominion warriors fought fiercely against the elite guards. Lyra faced the commander directly, her spear striking against his armored defenses. He was stronger than she expected, his movements heavy but relentless. Elias moved toward the core instead of engaging directly. Lyra noticed but trusted his judgment now. As he approached the spinning structure, the blade at his side began to glow faintly, not with aggressive energy but with resonance. The hum grew stronger, matching the rhythm of the star's pulses. He hesitated, studying the flow. Memories of human history filled his thoughts. Humans had survived storms, wars, disasters, and countless mistakes. They learned not by overpowering nature, but by adapting to it. He placed his hand near the core. The blade vibrated harder. Behind him, Lyra struggled against the commander's heavy strikes. He forced her backward, using sheer strength. You see, the commander growled, dominance decides survival. Lyra gritted her teeth, refusing to fall. Elias closed his eyes briefly, listening to the energy around him. The relic fragments aboard the convoy had shown similar patterns, stabilizing frequencies, balance instead of chaos. He drew the blade fully. Light spread along its surface, flowing like liquid metal. Slowly, carefully, he aligned the blade with the energy stream. The chamber shook violently. The commander turned toward him. Stop him! Guards rushed forward. Lyra intercepted them, blocking their path. Her movements were fierce, determined. She no longer saw Elias as someone needing protection. Now she fought to protect his chance to act. The blade touched the energy beam. For a moment, nothing happened. Then the entire structure trembled. The unstable energy shifted, changing tone. Instead of wild fluctuations, it began to smooth like a storm calming. The commander roared and charged toward Elias. Lyra stepped between them, spear blazing with renewed intensity. Their weapons clashed, sending waves of force across the chamber. Elias adjusted the blade's position slightly. The resonance deepened, spreading through the device like ripples in water. Outside, Dominion ships noticed the change immediately. The star's pulses slowed. The gravitational waves weakened. The Carthun fleet faltered. Inside the chamber, warning alarms sounded. The commander realized too late what was happening. "You weaken the collapse," he said with disbelief. Elias spoke quietly. "Balance is stronger than destruction." The energy flow reversed direction, feeding stabilizing waves back into the star. The destabilizer began shutting down. The commander attacked one final time, desperate. Lyra met him with unwavering focus. Their fight pushed both to their limits, but this time she moved differently, not relying only on power but adapting to his rhythm, just as she had seen Elias do. Her spear struck precisely at a weakness in his armor. The commander fell. Silence spread slowly through the chamber as the energy stabilized. Elias stepped back, breathing heavily but steady. Lyra approached him, her expression unreadable for a moment. "You changed the battlefield without destroying it," she said. He nodded slightly. "Sometimes survival means working with forces instead of against them." She looked toward the stabilizing star outside the viewport. For the first time, she fully understood what made humanity unique. They were not the strongest, not the fastest, but they adapted faster than anyone she had ever seen. Outside, the Carthun fleet began retreating, their plan undone. The mission was not finished yet, but the tide had turned. And Lyra knew the final battle was still coming. The central chamber of the destabilizer was quiet now, save for the low hum of residual energy. Elias Kane stood near the core, his blade still pulsing faintly with the strange resonance that had calmed the dying star. Around him, the Dominion warriors tended to minor injuries and secured the corridor from remaining Carthun forces. Captain Lyra Valen moved beside him, her armor scuffed and glowing dimly from earlier clashes, her breath steady but her mind sharp and alert. They had survived the first wave. The Carthun fleet had retreated, their destabilizer devices neutralized, or at least temporarily. Yet both of them knew this was only the beginning. Out there in space, beyond the viewport, the dying star's energy still flickered unpredictably, and somewhere among the black silhouettes of Carthun warships, the enemy commander was gathering strength for a final strike. Elias turned his attention fully to the core. The pulsing light danced across the walls, reflecting faintly in his calm, determined eyes. He had felt the energy of the relics, the subtle harmonics of the star, and the disruptive influence of the Carthun technology. He understood at some instinctual level that balance was the key. Destruction would not win. Only harmony would allow survival. Lyra studied him closely. She had always defined strength by dominance and direct power. The Carthun had taught her that. But Elias had shown her a different kind of strength. Quiet, patient, strategic, precise. It was not about overpowering the enemy. It was about outthinking them, adapting, surviving while preserving what mattered. She had resisted believing it at first. She had judged him by the standard of her own species. But now, watching him stand confidently near the unstable core of a star, she understood. Humans were unpredictable, yes, but that unpredictability was their greatest advantage. "Do you know what to do?" she asked. Her voice was low, calm, yet carried authority. Elias did not look at her directly. He watched the swirling energies of the core. "I think I do," he said. "I can redirect the flow, but I will need help coordinating the energy discharge. Timing is everything." Lyra nodded. She moved to the nearby control console, her fingers flying over the interface. The Dominion crew had designed their systems to complement her commands, and she now extended that coordination to Elias, following his lead, trusting his judgment. "We'll synchronize the strike from here," she said. "You tell me when and I'll execute the commands." Outside the viewport, the Carthun fleet began moving again, probing, testing, as if they could sense the disturbance. Lyra's eyes scanned the formation. "They've noticed the disruption. They'll try to isolate us, prepare defenses, and ready the escorts." Elias adjusted his stance, the blade's hum growing stronger. He focused on the vibrations, feeling them echo through the metallic floor beneath his boots. "The energy has a rhythm," he said quietly. "If we align with it, the wave we create can ripple outward, affecting the entire fleet and the star simultaneously." Lyra considered this. It was a risky plan. Any miscalculation could trigger an uncontrolled collapse of the star or backfire against their own convoy. But she trusted him now. His calm precision, the way he moved with awareness of forces invisible to her, had proven itself. "Do it," she said finally. Elias raised the blade, feeling the subtle pull of the star's energy through it. The relics secured in the convoy ships seemed to resonate in response. He understood their function now. They were stabilizers, tools designed not to destroy but to harmonize. By extending the energy through the blade, he could amplify their effect, create a wave of balance that might save not only the convoy but the star system itself. The first wave of Carthun boarding craft arrived at the chamber, tiny pods filled with soldiers determined to stop him. Dominion warriors intercepted them, forming a protective perimeter. Lyra moved among them, her spear a blur, cutting through attackers with relentless precision. Yet even as she fought, she observed Elias. He did not strike aggressively. He blocked only when necessary, used redirection, guiding opponents, momentum into harmless directions, conserving energy, maintaining focus on the core. Minutes passed like hours. Each second mattered. Each movement carried consequences. Elias felt the blade responding to the flow, every micro-adjustment shifting the energy patterns of the destabilizer. The star's pulses became more coherent, less erratic, but the core remained fragile. One wrong motion, one misalignment, and the system would collapse violently. Suddenly, the Carthun commander breached the outer defenses of the chamber, a towering figure of armor and force. His presence was overwhelming, and he moved with the confidence of a predator who had never faced defeat. Lyra intercepted him immediately, their weapons colliding with sparks of raw energy. She parried and struck with all her skill, but the commander was relentless. His blows were powerful, each one testing her endurance. Elias did not panic. He adjusted the blade again, aligning it with the shifting harmonics. The hum grew louder, resonating through the chamber, vibrating against the walls and floor, a sound that was more felt than heard. He could sense the energy of the star responding, moving subtly with him, as if acknowledging his presence. Lyra noticed the change in the battlefield. The attacks of the commander and his guards seemed to slow slightly, as if the energy wave Elias was creating disrupted their coordination. Her strikes became more precise, her awareness heightened. She moved with an almost unnatural focus, synchronizing instinctively with the energy pulse emanating from the blade. The core of the destabilizer began to glow brighter, a steady, coherent light replacing the chaotic flickers. Elias felt the flow stabilize further. The timing was perfect. He could now redirect the energy outward, forming a harmonic wave that would neutralize the destabilizer and send a stabilizing pulse through the star system. "Now," he called. Lyra pressed a series of controls. The chamber shuddered as the energy wave propagated through the machinery. Outside, the dying star pulsed with a coherent glow, waves of stabilizing energy rippling outward. The Carthun fleet reacted instantly, their devices overloaded by the harmonic feedback. One by one, the enemy vessels faltered, engines flickering, weapons shutting down. Their formation broke apart. Retreat became inevitable. Inside the chamber, the commander launched a final desperate assault, but Elias met him with calm precision. The blade guided his movements, striking with exact timing, avoiding unnecessary force, and using the commander's own momentum against him. Lyra assisted, her spear synchronized with his strikes, creating a unified front. Finally, the commander fell, his armor breached, his strength neutralized. The last of the Carthun forces were either captured or driven off. Silence settled over the chamber. The energy wave continued to pulse outward, stabilizing the star, neutralizing remaining destabilizers, and protecting the convoy. Elias lowered the blade, exhausted but composed. The hum faded, leaving a quiet resonance in its place. Lyra approached him, breathing heavily, sweat and scuffs marking her armor. She studied him, seeing not weakness but strength, the kind that could survive, adapt, and overcome without dominating blindly. "You did it," she said softly. He nodded. "We did it." She looked outside at the star, now steady, its violent pulses replaced by a rhythmic, controlled glow. The convoy ships, intact and unharmed, moved safely in formation. The Carthun fleet had retreated beyond effective range. Victory was theirs. Lyra felt a shift inside her. Strength was not always measured by brute force or size. Elias had shown her another truth. Courage, intelligence, adaptability, and patience were forms of strength that could surpass even the mightiest armies. Humans were fragile in appearance, yes, but their resilience and creativity made them formidable in ways the galaxy was only beginning to understand. She turned to Elias. "You've changed the way I see strength," she said quietly. He smiled faintly, exhaustion in his features but confidence in his eyes. "Sometimes strength is quiet," he replied. "Sometimes it waits for the right moment to act," Lyra nodded, "and sometimes it can shake the stars." Outside, the dying star shone steadily now, a reminder of survival, balance, and the human ability to face impossible odds. Humanity had proved, once again, that even in a galaxy filled with powerful species and relentless threats, courage and cleverness could redefine what it meant to be strong. The convoy began its journey back to Dominion space. Dominion crews celebrated in small ways, repairing damage, checking systems, and tending to the wounded. Lyra remained beside Elias as the strike vessel detached and aligned with the convoy. She had learned that leadership was not just about commanding strength, it was about recognizing it where it existed, even in the most unlikely forms. The journey would not be easy. Challenges still awaited them among the stars. But for the first time, Lyra felt a sense of confidence she had never known before. With Elias by her side, and with the unpredictable resilience of humanity on her team, she knew they could face whatever the galaxy threw at them. Elias glanced back at her, blade sheathed once more, energy dissipated, a calm determination on his face. Lyra smiled faintly. She had once thought humans weak. She had been wrong. Now together, they moved forward through the stars, ready to face whatever came next, knowing that sometimes the smallest, quietest beings carried the strength to change the universe itself. The stars stretched endlessly before them, bright and infinite, and in that moment humanity had left its mark, not through domination, but through courage, wisdom, and the subtle power to turn weakness into unstoppable force.